Today's video, we're going to talk the Monkey King. Let's go. Welcome back to the channel. This is Mark, aka Power Made Flesh of No Original Starries. My channel, I like to demonstrate the concept that stories are a retelling of the stars, hence the word Starries, where there's no such thing as an original story. Everything is a repeat of the constellations of the sky and aspects of nature. This applies to our historical narratives, as I like to call it, high starry, not his story, but high starry. When you can see the myths that are encodes of the sky, encoded in history, you can see it on a deeper level. Today we're going to tackle the concept of the Monkey King, the Sun Wukong character. And I mentioned in the previous video that it's the year of the dragon. The dragon is heavily associated with the monkey, where they're rivals, sometimes friends. Together they form a mercurial tie that is almost a magical or special character. When the monkey and the dragon work together, you see some great things. And if you notice in our world today, 2024, the year of the dragon, there's a lot of monkey merchandise and activity going on, as I'm outlined in the previous video. And I'm pretty sure we'll see more throughout the year. But today we're going to focus the Monkey King character. So an important concept to remember is the dragon is always associated with it, whether in a good or bad way. Then also another association with the monkey and the dragon is the cat, as you'll see. So Sun Wukong is a retelling of Journey to the West. The character, Journey to the West is a story about the sun's path, but is also allegory for spiritual concepts, as we'll explore in a later video in this series. Today's video, we're going to focus on some hidden ideas that are in the concept of Journey to the West, or the Sun Wukong character. So right off the bat, when you look at the character's appearance, he is a Monkey King character, but he's on a cloud. This is letting you know that you should be thinking about the sky. This is an encoded idea or concept of the sky. Then we also see him as a golden monkey, which is about the sun, but different stories have him hatched from an egg or a concept of the moon. The word monkey, I think about moon key, the word moon, and you always see bananas associated with monkeys, and bananas are the shape of a crescent of the moon. So it's a play on the moon and the sun. It's a sky story. So sometimes the Monkey King will be reversed, where it'll be moon-based or sun-based, depending on the different stories that are being told. And you'll see this even kind of concept in the Bible, where the Old Testament was moon-based, and the second, or the New Testament, is sun-based, and you see concepts carry over from both. So when you look at his appearance, you also see the staff. A lot of these stories are encoding the sun, Journey to the West, the sun's path from east to west, but also surrounding the sun is different zodiac animals like the pig, right? And these are all different aspects or positions of the sun and or moon on the zodiac clock. So it's also telling you about the interaction throughout the different months of the year or different aspects of nature in the sun's path. But deeper level of encoding in these stories are spiritual concepts that I really like, moral concepts that I want to save for the second video. But I'm surprised that I didn't see this in previously until really researching this character. But we also see the staff. The character carries a staff, right? And any character that's carrying a staff is a point to the Polestar, Polaris, the NorthStar. So it's a Polaris character. And a lot of our concepts or characters, as we'll show in the first slide here, are polar-based but retold as solar. When we first see Aang, the Avatar, the Monkey King airbender, right? He is carrying a staff, like the Polestar, right? But he's also on a flying bison, which looks like a cloud or a flying nimbus, right? But he's found frozen in ice, and that's really important. He's found frozen in the ice because it's a solar retelling of a polar story. And the second series of Aang, the Avatar Airbender, is Polaris-based, right? And polar doesn't only mean cold. It also has to do with electricity, electromagnetism. And you see in the newer Polaris age, in the second generation of Avatar, the Legend of Korra, it's electricity and technology based as well. And then we have Captain America, another character who's a Polestar character found frozen in the ice. He's a solo retelling of a polar story, hence the Winter Soldier concept idea. And he doesn't carry a pole, right? But he does carry a flagpole in different scenes, kind of being his arc where he becomes Captain America. He makes it to the top of the hill with a flagpole. And then he also has the shield. The shield has a star on there, letting you know you should be thinking about the sky. His mask has angels of the air on it, letting you know you should be thinking about the sky like Thor. And then he also is, there's different scenes or different films with him in it where he can call his shield back to his arm or gauntlet with magnets. Electromagnetism is a concept of Polaris as well, or the NorthStar. Then we have Goku, right? He's a character who is found from another planet, right? Kind of like the Superman story. And he is Son Goku, direct retelling of Journey to the West. And instead, in the first series, the Old Testament of Son Goku, or Dragon Ball, which is called Dragon Ball, he turns into a giant ape from the moon. My belief that all giant stories are a retelling of the moon, or giants, if historically were accurate, were under a different moon where, the moon caused them to be larger. And the moon is directly responsible for our growth. This is why you always see the moon associated with giant stories or Titan stories. Thanos, for example, is a personification of the moon. But we have Son Goku. In the first series, he was a moon-based Monkey King. And then in the second series, Dragon Ball Z, he becomes a Super Saiyan, an angel, a sun-based Monkey King character. But they're all really the same kind of retelling of the same kind of concepts. And they encode a lot of the spiritual concepts that are in the Monkey King and also the Bible, as we'll go in later on in the series. But Goku's villains that he fight are called Frieza, Cooler, King Cold. It's about the solar retelling of polar stories. And he carries a staff in the original series. And another thing about Dragon Ball is Frieza, who is his main enemy in Dragon Ball Z, is also a play on the golden monkey as well. So he's a reptile, a dragon, or a lizard versus the monkey. But then in the later series, he becomes the golden monkey kind of character as well. So another character we have with this frozen in ice or polar to solar retelling is the character Superman, right? Superman is a sun-based character with a snake on his chest, right? The serpent. Sometimes the serpent and the dragon are interchangeable. 2024 to 2025, year of the dragon to the serpent. And you see Batman and Superman work together, right? The dragon and the serpent work together. But his fortress of solitude is in the ice, right? And then crypto or cryo is another way of telling, characters frozen in ice and coming alive in our time or going through space. These are all concepts about Polaris. So if you see a scene in a movie where there's space travel and someone's frozen in cryo and then they wake up, at the heart of that story is also Polaris or the NorthStar. Another one is Jesus Christ, right? Jesus Christ is a retelling of the sun or personification of the sun, whether true or not, like historically, or whether it's real or not. Also encoded in the story is the allegory for the sun, 12 months of the year, 12 disciples. Anakin Skywalker surrounded by 12 Jedis in the Jedi Council, King Arthur. This surrounding of the 12 is a play on that concept. But Jesus was born in the winter, in the snow. So you can kind of see a solar retelling of a polar story kind of as well. And he doesn't carry a staff, but he died on the cross. The cross or the X is also a symbol for the North Star. If you notice all the X symbolism going on in our current world. And then another character that we have here is Shulk from the game Xenoblade, the X. And he is a kid who is a sun-based character, found frozen in the ice. The moon Nado kept him alive. But that game is about giant titans navigating the world. And then at the end, he has to fight the hidden spiritual sun in the form of Sansa. And this two suns concept is in a lot of Monkey King characters, where you have Sun from Marvel vs. Capcom. You have Sansa Stark, who is also Phoenix and Dark Phoenix, the sun we see and the sun we don't see kind of concept. Then we have Leo from Titanic. And just a side note with Superman, just like Aang the Avatar, the last airbender, was born frozen in ice, And then the second coming of Aang is the female version. All these characters have an inverse female version, and there's a reason for that, which we'll focus on the gender video. But just like Aang has Korra in the second term, or the second avatar, the winter polar based avatar, while Superman's retelling is Korra, his sister, or Kara, his niece or cousin. So you see the parallels between the Legend of Korra being the female version of the Avatar, and then Kara being the female Superman or Supergirl. And Korra is a name that you can often see associated with the NorthStar in stories, and also the name Clark Kent, right? Ken in Street Fighter is a play on the NorthStar. He has the fire fist. The NorthStars also used to be called the Fire Star, so sometimes you'll see characters personifying fire, like Firestar in the Marvel Comics is a play on the NorthStar. That's why she's paired with Iceman. But I just wanted to add that side note between the connection of Korra and the Avatar, and then Korra and the Superman story, or Kara. Now, Leo from Titanic is played by, Jack from Titanic is played by Leonardo DiCaprio, which is an encode for the sun. The story is about the sun's path crossing against Rose, who's a personification of both the moon and the North Star. Rose, the rose compass to get back to the North Star. And as they both cross each other, it becomes an eclipse. And then after that point, where they're in the front of the ship, the movie becomes darker, or the dark period starts to happen where the sun sacrifices himself so the moon can rise, or the North Star, can be center position. And at the end, years later, Rose returns to the same position where she met the sun, and he rises again. So it's an exchange about the sun and the moon encoded in that story. And the Titanic ship, or Titan ship, is just a personification of the dark gloom and doom supermoon period. But Leo, which is also a play on Jack Frost, is frozen in the ice at the end of the movie. So it's a solar/polar passing of the torch in that story. And if you notice the colors that the character has in that film, his clothing outfits are all kind of encodes in all these Monkey King story characters, where they have this beige, this tan, this phoenix color, this brown, golden aura to them. And I'll connect Titanic more to this later on in the series. So another concept that the Monkey King characters, or stories that are retelling or inspired by the Monkey King story, often will have is this Lion King-esque story where the father dies and the son leaves, and then he doesn't really appreciate the father until the father's dead, and he is kind of in his father's shadow. It's like the passing of the torch from father to son. And, that's why I always say the concept of the real word son and as in a child or offspring or a kin, is also akin to the solar or the heavenly body of, the sun in the sky. So you often see this kind of play on both, where the stories that are about the Monkey King also will have the father and son's connection be really challenged or tormented in these kind of stories. For example, the story of the prodigal son is heavily associated with the Monkey King, as we'll show later on in the series. In My Brother's Keepers, a heavy association. But in this picture, we have Okoye from the Black Panther story, which is the Monkey King character. And that story where the Black Panther is like Simba from the Lion King, as you see. And then we have Rafiki, which is the Monkey King. In that story, he's kind of like the Merlin, the wizard, the Mercury character that awakens Simba to return and become himself. But what I saw the connection was Okoye from the Black Panther, and then The Rock's character in the Rampage movie, where he plays David Okoye, or Davis Okoye, and he's the kind of character who can control the ape in the form of George in that story. And you notice George is gray, like the color of Mercury. And, just think about Floyd is another way of saying gray hair. And this movie came out during the height of the riots that we had in 2020, kind of playing on that alchemy or that energy, if you can get what I'm saying. But The Rock is the Monkey King character in that story. And you notice that George is not the golden monkey. He's a gray monkey, a Mercury monkey, because The Rock is really like the golden child in that story. And that movie, the villain is the crocodile or the dragon, right? Not by coincidence. And just a reinforcement of the Year of the Dragon being associated with bridges. As I mentioned in the previous video, when that crocodile first comes, it destroys a bridge in that story. But I put this picture together to kind of show you that the connection of the subtle connections of these stories. But the Lion King theme is, leaving and coming back, or your parent dying or father dying, being in the shadow of your father, is at the heart of a lot of Monkey King stories, because it kind of matches the story of the Monkey King challenging the gods, wanting more. Another one is this After Earth with Jaden Smith. And Jaden Smith is in a lot of these kind of stories where he's playing the Monkey King, where he's either the rabbit and a tortoise of the hare story, like Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi being the turtle, like Master Roshi from Goku. And he's teaching the little lad, which is kind of the monkey and the rabbit, how to become. Well, in this movie, After Earth, his name is Katai, which is the name of another Dragon Ball character, or Saiyan or Monkey King character from Dragon Ball. And he has the Polestar, so he has the staff, he's the Polestar. Whenever you see a character with these kind of poles or staffs, if you know anything about fighting, they're not the most efficient way to fight. And sure, they can show them as skilled, but it's almost the most inconvenient way of fighting, So the character is carrying it more to symbolize that he is a Polestar character, or a play on that kind of concept. Well, in this film, he does the kind of journey to the West path where he fights the tiger or the cat. Then he also has to overcome the monkeys, becoming the Monkey King in that story. There's even a scene with him and the hawk. And these are kind of reoccurring themes. But the final villain that he fights are these kind of like dragon-based aliens that you need to be spiritually awakened to kind of fight, or not, to not be afraid of to fight them. And their original concepts, they were called the snake or the serpent. The Monkey King, the dragon or the serpent is what they fight. But also they were later on turned into, I think they call it the Ursas, which is a play on Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, the big bear, the constellation surrounding the North Star. So you can, just to reinforce, the Monkey King, at the heart of the Monkey King story, is also Polaris, the North Star. And Jaden Smith, I'll break down some of his other stories as well that play on these concepts. But just keep in mind that his mother's name is Jada, right? So the Jade Empress, you kind of see this as being a reoccurring theme, where this character at birth was probably made for these Monkey King stories. And, this also plays into his gender roles, or his duplicity in gender or dating. He's kind of, I think it goes both ways. The color of hair that you always see Jaden Smith, these are all North Star Polaris concepts. So another interesting one is the Star Wars series. A lot of times in the Star Wars series, you'll see references to the North Star or the Polestar. They also carry the lightsabers, kind of playing on that idea. There's two different poles, the light and the dark. In the original series, you had Luke Skywalker, who's the son of Hermes in mythology, and Hermes is Mercury. So the anomaly, the special one, and that carries on to later on in the series with Anakin. But you see there's a kind of Polestar play. And the Anakin series, the Star Wars series, I'll cover a little bit more in depth in the future video with the Monkey King, because there's a lot of characters in that story and those in that series that encode this Monkey King idea. But when Anakin was the young golden child, he was fighting, him, the Monkey King, the anomaly, the special one. He was fighting against Darth Maul, or the villain was Darth Maul, and Darth Maul was associated with the dragon. This is why his appearance was like the dragon. And anytime you have a character who's a dragon versus the Monkey King, the final fight will often be on a bridge. And this is, aligns with 2024 Bridges, the year of the dragon. But in this picture, you see Rey Skywalker, who is the Monkey King in the newer trilogy, and the surrounding cast of characters they give her are a play on that as well. This is why, it kind of hinted that John Boyega was going to be the Monkey King character, but it was passed to Rey. But, his casting was for that reason. There's also another character, Rose Tika, which is a play on the North Star, but she's the pig character from Journey to the West. So you kind of see this thing going on with Journey to the West. And Journey to the West, or the Monkey King, will always have this connection between siblings, or a connection between the monkey and the dragon. And, when Kylo connects with Rey, they form the dyad. I told you something special happens with dragons and monkeys come together. So that's kind of what's encoded in that. And the Monkey King character in Rey can also be aligned with the Naruto character. She's trying to save the dragon character, who's tempted by the snake, Snoke or Sasuke being tempted by Orochimaru. This can carry on to a lot of other series as well, like even the Avatar Airbender Monkey King story has that kind of prodigal son, am I my brother's keeper kind of thing going on, as we'll get into later on in the series. But I brought this up. I made this collage of pictures here because there's one scene that stood out to me where Rey is talking to this, or she's able to communicate with animals with her powers. And she comes along and finds this snake underground, and she's able to communicate with it. That was kind of symbolic that she was going to reconvert Kylo, who was tempted by the snake, similar to like Sasuke being tempted by Orochimaru. But that's, just that was all pointing to Journey to the West to me when I saw that scene. But when she's first introduced, she has the staff, the pole, like the Polestar character, and even her evil version they show, like in a nightmare dream, has the dual lightsabers like Darth Maul, kind of just reinforcing that she's the Monkey King Polestar character. And at the end, she gets the golden lightsaber. She becomes golden. And this other picture that we have here, I have, I have a lot more pictures that I'll save for some future videos. But I have the picture of the Golden Child stories, where all these stories are about a new age about to be established, or the Golden Child, the Avatar is found, where you have the Golden Child actually on the bottom. And then you have the John Connor with the gold blonde hair in the Terminator 3 film. And most people were wondering, like, why would they cast this guy? Why would they do this weird casting? Everyone in Hollywood, especially if you're the main cast, you're chosen for a reason. There's no auditioning for these big roles. You're a part of the cast. So you're either being selected for your role. So when you see this guy playing John Connor, when he doesn't look like the traditional John Connor, it's for a reason. And it's because of his appearance, his gold blonde hair. He's the Monkey King character. And that film, I told you, the monkey, the dragon, the bad guy Terminator, or the female Terminator, had like the vampire virus poke, and she appeared in front of a Chinese mannequin, indicating that it's the year of the dragon and all, or that's the dragon character. And what also happens with this John Connor character is he ends up going out with a girl named Cat. And they always do this. The Monkey King character goes out with a cat, where Liu Kang, the monk, the dragon combined, goes out with Kit Kat, Katana. Star Fox, he has a cat. And Star Fox is another character, or another assembly of characters that have the Journey to the West appearance. And he carries a staff in some games, letting you know he's a Polestar character. But next to him, we have Anakin. We talked about Anakin already being the play on the Golden Child. And then we have Aang, the Last Airbender. But they're all a part of our avatars that kind of bring us to this new age, whether they choose to do it right or wrong. And then in the middle, we have Hot Rod, which is kind of a play on Ra. And a lot of times you'll see Ra, Ramesses, Raya, and the dragon. The Ra also being encoded in these Golden Child or Monkey King stories. And his name is Hot Rod, letting you know the Rod, the Polestar, the name Rodney, Rod. You can always associate that with the Polestar. And then we have Simba up top, the Golden Child, lifted by the monkey, just reinforcing that it's a Monkey King story, just re-encoded or scrambled up into a Kit Kat story, right? But there's another character in the recent Godzilla. There's a girl named Gia, and she's a play on the Monkey King character as well. And she becomes golden at the end, the Golden Child. And when I first saw her in the first movie she was introduced in years ago, I knew that she was going to be the Avatar character, or the Monkey King was being played with her design and look. And think about the Golden Child down here we see in this picture. She's found in Tibet in the cold, letting you know it's a solar retelling of a polar story, right? And when Eddie Murphy's character finds the Golden Child, it's in the cold. So it's the same kind of idea going on there. Even in something like Wolverine, when he first is introduced, he's introduced fighting against the Hulk. So it's a kind of play on that monkey and dragon concept. And Wolverine comes from Canada, the cold. So these are like nice ways to encode that these characters are really polar retelling of stories, or they're based off of polar concepts or constellations. But I thought this was a cool scramble up of pictures here, just letting you know that, kind of demonstrating how symbolic and how encoded the Monkey King, Sun Wukong is in most of our films. And this has been going on pretty much all of my life, in the 80s even, as demonstrated here. Another one that I'll cover in a later film is, a later video is the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, which is kind of like a retelling the same thing of the Lion King, kind of, and that character is like, why would they cast this? Anytime you get why would they cast this guy as the lead, it just throws the series off. It's being done for a reason. And he's kind of encoding the Monkey King character. His name is Sean. He goes out with a girl named Neela, which is a play on Nala from Lion King. And Sun Kang, right? Not by coincidence, that guy's stage name is Sun Kang because that story is a retelling of the Monkey King. The villain they fight is called DK, like Donkey Kong. We'll get into that in a later video. But that's what this picture kind of encodes. And then on this next picture here, I have the Monkey King, is known for flying on the flying Nimbus. You see that a lot of characters, when they're personifying the sky, they'll associate them with stars on their chest, like the Marvel superheroes will often have stars on their chest, or symbols of whatever they represent in alchemy or an element. But the Monkey King is shown to be flying on the cloud, because at the time when it was written, that might have been the easiest way to encode that you should be thinking about the sky when you think about this character. But this also carries on to other stories like Jesus returning on the clouds, right? This also, you say Aang on his bison, kind of like bye-bye son, but also like bison is a zodiac position as well. And, bison in Street Fighter kind of plays the same idea where he's next to Rose, the Rose Compass. Well, you have Goku also with his staff, another Monkey King character on the clouds. And Atreyu from the Never Ending Story, where he has the dog dragon, kind of play on both, but that is kind of encoding that he flies on the cloud as well, or a nice subtle way of retelling that same story in a slick way. And then Kamala Khan is one of my favorite. She's a misunderstood character, in my opinion. She's Marvel's newest mascot. She's a kind of like a moon-based Monkey King character, but you see she's on the light pole, kind of indicating a Polestar idea you should be thinking about. She has the power of Mercury, the polymorph like the T-1000, Luffy, Monkey D. Luffy from One Piece, Mr. Fantastic, which is the Fantastic Four, is a team of Mercury characters. So she has all those powers, but on the TV show, the live action show, they added her ability to walk on the sky, kind of playing that walking on the clouds kind of idea. And this walking on the clouds, this is where the name Skywalker comes from. When they first introduced Luke Skywalker in the original series, he has a speeder that looks like it's floating. Well, it's floating, kind of encoding that he walks on the sky. And the many scenes where they show him on Dagobah in the clouds, it's like a mist, almost hinting that he might actually be in the sky, even though it's like a swamp. They have him in Cloud City. There's just a lot of reinforcement that, you should be personifying him in the sky. And Luke is the son of Hermes. And Hermes is a character who's playing Mercury, the anomaly, the special. And we see that later on in the series with Anakin. But that's reinforced with Princess Leia and her hair in the shape of a ram. The ram is a symbol of Mercury as well. So you have the Mercury twins like Quicksilver and Wanda Maximoff, the children of Magneto, Mercury. So that's that part right there. And this last slide here, this is the last character we'll cover for today, or last concept we'll cover for today, is Robin from Batman, the Golden Boy Wonder, the heir to the throne of the bat, of the dragon bat. Batman is sometimes a play on the bat and the dragon. And, him having a monkey / sidekick is what Robin is referred to by. The Joker usually refers to him as a trainable monkey. And the Joker, even as you can see in this picture, took on a gorilla to kind of make fun of that one of his sidekicks is a monkey. But Batman and the Joker are both a play on Polestar characters. They're opposite ends of the same spectrum. I think the place that the Joker fell in and got his change was Axis Chemical. And in later videos, I'll explain to you why the bat is an important part of the Polestar, the transition. And you think about when our world really went to overdrive and change, it was the year of the rat, or the bat. A rat in the sky is the bat. But you see these pictures, you have Robin, and one story where they did like a Japanese animation version of Batman. They even put the monkey with him because they even know that what his character represents. He's the Monkey King, the Golden Boy. And there's different variations of Robin. Different characters play Robin. And I like this kind of concept. But there's one character named Tim Drake, which is a play on the dragon, because the dragon and the monkey have a heavy association with each other. And then the wings of the dragon, or the sidekick of the dragon, would be the night wings, as you see there. But I added this picture up there at top with Jubilee from X-Men, because she's kind of like the Golden Child character for the X-Men team. And her and Robin kind of have an affinity. But what I will say about these Polestar characters, as I'll cover in a later video, is they're often duplicitous in their gender, where the Tim Drake version of of Robin, I think was gay or homosexual. Robin and Jubilee's looks are kind of interchangeable, where they kind of both can be like a girl and or boy. And you'll see this a lot with Polestar characters, not just with the characters on screen, but the actors. Sometimes the actors are trans. Sometimes you don't find out until later on when they grow up that, wait a minute, that was a female who was playing that little golden child boy. And that's what they do intentionally, because the Monkey King is a Polestar character, and Polestar characters are often associated with the dueling of genders, or the bending of genders, the opposite poles of genders. It's not straightforward. And, where like the sun and the moon are masculine or feminine, where the Polestar is kind of different. And this aligns with what's going on in our world. The X-Men are also a team that represents the Polestar of NorthStar. And that's why most of their characters are kind of like the lead way of bridging homosexuality and trans agenda and all that kind of stuff in the comic books. And it's because it's encoding sky ideas that have that kind of range of characteristics in the individual's personality. So, and to kind of cut this one off or finish it, there's a picture here of, this is a Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man, which one is this? Spider-Man Far From Home, when they go on a trip to, I think, London. So there's a couple scenes where the Spider-Man's character is referred to as Night Monkey in here. Night Monkey being a play on his alter ego, or his alter version, that he has to hide his identity while he's in London. But that also, whenever I hear an animal and I know it's a Zodiac, I already know that we're about to see an encode of Zodiac story. And then you have Jake, which is also a play on Jacob in the Bible, and also the Drake, the dragon. The Old Testament, as I mentioned before, is moon-based, so a lot of death and murdering and sacrificing. Jacob, Isaac, Abraham and Isaac. But the name Jake will always be kind of aligned with the moon version of a character. So with that being said, Jake is also kind of a play on Drake. So you have Mysterio in the colors of a dragon versus the monkey. And when the monkey and the dragon come together, they also can form a fire or mercury, electricity kind of explosion of energy. So you see Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat is kind of a play on the monkey, the monk, and the dragon. And he becomes a mercurial god where he has lightning powers, but also a fire god. Something like Blanca would also be that, the dragon and the monkey, and he shoots electricity or can charge, because they're this special once they're able to fuse together. Well, when they first join teams, just Spider-Man and Mysterio, they're fighting the most powerful elemental, which is the fire elemental. And, that movie plays on the concept of elements, just like the Avatar Airbender. You think about Zuko and Aang joining forces is kind of when Aang finally becomes the full Avatar. He finally learns to control fire, so now he's a complete individual. And you kind of see that play. And I'll break down that Spider-Man movie later on. But what's important to note is when you already have the dragon encoded, the dragon is always going to be associated with bridges. And the final fight of that movie takes place none other than the bridge. 2024, Year of the Dragon, the bridge. So that's this video right now for my start on the Journey to the West, Sun Wukong character, and how it has influenced our stories. I really am attracted to paying attention to this character because I see that it's a much deeper encode on a lot of our stories than I originally thought. I'm surprised I haven't noticed this before, but it influences a lot of our religion. A lot of other stories are being influenced by it as well. And I don't think it's some insidious thing like, China rules our government or, they're really behind everything. I think this is just a tool that they use to encode stories and ideas to their people. And we have stories that we use to encode ideas and stories to our people. And it may not work on us in the past because we had different perspectives. But as the world becomes more global, we kind of all are starting to see the same perspective of the sky, I would say. And this is just a valuable story in the arsenal of stories that encode the sky, in my opinion. So I'll leave it at that. If you have any comments, please leave them down below. I have a lot more characters that will surprise you. I'll focus on a lot more serious stories as well, live action stories that would surprise you, that the Monkey King is really a big deal in our Western stories, especially Hollywood. And a couple big key focuses is relating it to biblical stories that I want to focus on. The idea of black people being used and different races being used. And then this gender bending, twisting that you are going to see a lot with these Monkey King characters. And ultimately what I see at the end, what this story kind of really encodes. So hope you liked the video. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.